Hello and welcome to another Stellarian Games video. Before we begin the video tonight, I just wanted to extend a big thank you for all of the subscribers out there. We're getting up to about 750 subscribers right now, which is quite a lot in my opinion. I know there's plenty of channels out there that have more subscribers, but for this small hobby channel, I'm pretty pleased with 750. We're not quite there yet, but I'm hoping that each week we get a few more subscribers and that this continues. So tonight's video, we're going to be covering the ruined walls that we've made. Some doorway arches, walls with windows, walls without windows, but just a variety of different ruined walls for modular setup in any way that you wanted to on your Ultimate Dungeon terrain. Could be used on a tabletop board as well for a set of ruins. Really all sorts of different applications because they're modular, they're simple, but I really love how these turned out in terms of the small cracks in the plaster lining revealing the rock. Just gives it a really nice dimensional feel to these pieces that you don't otherwise get with just kind of a straight stone ruin. This has just a little bit more flair and texture, in my opinion, that I really like. So let's go to the table and see how these are done. Okay, for this build, we're going to use 1/2 inch XPS foam, cutting these into 3-inch strips. And then we're going to mark off segments on these 3-inch strips that will be the length of the wall segments that we have in the final result. Obviously these 3-inch strips are a bit tall, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But first we're going to cut these into varying lengths just so we have a variety of different length segments. I'm chaining the styrofoam, just beating the styrofoam with some chain to give it a nice texture. I probably should have done this while they were in 3-inch sections, but it works with the smaller sections too. Now I'm marking off the halfway point on those 3-inch sections, so 1.5 inches in on each end. And then I'm using a knife to cut them in half, but I'm cutting them in a very irregular pattern. This will form the rough shape of those ruined walls. So each end will be 1.5 inches. And that will allow each end to join together with the others in a nice, even fashion. I'm using an X-Acto knife to slice into the plaster, exposing that stonework that will be put in a little bit later. Now I'm using a ballpoint pen to add cracks to the plaster and add the stonework to that exposed section. I'm drawing in all of the stonework over the top and in those exposed sections just so that it has some texture, and then I'm using an X-Acto knife to cut out some of where I had drawn in the stonework to make it look like the walls were actually crumbling instead of just that smooth styrofoam. Next, we're going to work on some walls with windows in them. The first step is really just tracing on the window stones, and then I'm using an X-Acto to cut out the window itself. Just being careful to cut out the shape of the window and hollow it out. Adding some cracks and details to the window and the inside ledge, and then adding the details to the rest of the piece as well. Cutting out some extra stones, exposing the plaster as well. Now I'm going to work on doorway sections. These are smaller pieces that can be fit into the wall. I didn't put any doorways into larger walls as I figured I want them to be a little bit more modular. So just using a circle trace and cutting out a couple different widths of doors, and now cutting them out on a hot wire cutter. And then for one of the doorways, I'm taking that cutout piece and slicing a thin wedge of that to act as a door for one of the entries. Using a ballpoint pen to add the stonework to the arches and the stones inside of the arch as well. Then I'm coming to the hot wire cutter and cutting around those arches and some rough stone shapes as well, so that I can cut away at that and make that the exposed stonework. I'm taking that little slice of a door, using a ballpoint pen to put on some wood planking, and then using a pencil to add the texture of the wood to that door. Using the X-Acto knife to cut away at stones and exposing the plaster as well. Next, I'm using a hot glue gun, and all of those little chunks of stone that I cut out of the wall, I'm piling into that hot glue to make it look like rubble forming at the base of these walls. I'm doing these with the long walls. That'll help those long walls stand up straight. And on the shorter walls, I'm using some screws to put into the bottom, and that will help those stand up straight as well. Just giving a little bit of weight to the bottom of them. On some parchment paper, adding some hot glue piles and adding a whole bunch of the loose rubble to make rubble piles that can be just set into any room or outside. Now onto the painting step. We're using the black paint in Mod Podge and coating all of them inside and out. Then I'm coming along with a gray and dry brushing that exposed stonework first. That way I don't have to be careful about the way that I dry brush onto the rest of the wall. Then I'm using this khaki color and using it to paint the actual stucco plaster look. I'm being pretty liberal with the dry brush, and eventually I ended up just coating it pretty thoroughly with that khaki color. Now I'm using a dark brown and painting that door. And the last step is just adding a black wash to all of the pieces. This black wash really makes them a lot more grimy and dirty, and really what you need for this ruined look. And here are the finished ruined walls sitting on my outdoor Ultimate Dungeon terrain. This setup makes for a great ambush location or just exploration for your players. I hope you like this video. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe, and maybe we'll hit 750 subscribers this time. If you do like this video, please consider sharing it with your friends and seeing if they would like to learn about crafting videos as well. Please come back next time, and we'll see you again. Thank you.